Ooh, yes. Who's back? Back again. Shady's back. Tell a friend. Guess who's back? 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 Na 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 na.
Thought I'd wake us up a little bit. I'm pretty tired. That's AI generated. So who says that AI doesn't have soul? Pretty incredible, right? I'm not Shady, I'm Lee, and I'm not back. This is my first time here on this beautiful day. Lovely to meet you. Thanks to Vic for asking me to come and present. I build enterprise software systems, done it for many years. I build AI agents for scientists and scientific researchers. I build those with AI agents, which makes you start to wonder, what's the point of me? And that's becoming an increasingly important point. Soon there probably won't be me, but for now, I still have a job. I'm starting to learn farming because I think that's probably the next thing for me. My first presentation was all the cool things I do with AI. So I have a microclaw set of agents, and they're Liberland ministers and Larkin Rose, and they debate the constitution and laws of Liberland. They've done 90 rounds now. And the good news is, Larkin has yet to really find a major problem with the laws, which is really cool. And I have all sorts of other cool projects. I have Vitbot, who's a LLM who you can ask questions about the constitution and laws of Liberland. And then I realized that presentation was more about me and how cool I am. And asking Marina what you guys would like to hear, she thinks that maybe some tips and tricks for how to use LLMs, which is a large language model, not the other kind of LLM, and just go from using a chat interface to maybe building an application, just going to the next level. So has everybody used a chat interface like Claude or Gemini? Yeah. Has anyone actually built an app using them? Yeah, we've got some geeks in. Good. Okay. Has anybody used Claude Cowork? You have as well. All right, good. So that presentation I had, I went and found an MIT professor who talks about how to give a good presentation. I took that presentation, I put it into Claude, and I put this MIT professor's best practices, and Claude said, no, it's terrible. It's all about you, and it's not about your audience, and trying to help them to understand something. So I threw it away, and this is the result from that. And everything here is AI generated. I hope it's not AI slop. You can be the judge of that. So I hope by the end of this, you take away at least one thing that can help you work with LLMs a bit better. And there's a kind of smorgasbord of things that I think are useful and have helped me to go from being really frustrated trying to use LLMs right through to building enterprise systems with them. So firstly, I think it's really important that you treat your agent or your LLM like a partner and co-create with them. Many people just looking for an answer. There's this, you type a question in, you get an answer back. And then you go to the next question, type another answer. And you can just do this back and forth. And you find you're not really getting to the answers that you want. And so I start out like a brainstorming session, and I can spend half an hour or even longer just going through a chat, just exploring the different ideas rather than just asking questions. So what's the difference? Oh, I've lost a slide in there. So what a human brings is the intent, the values, the judgment, the bigger picture and the goals that you're trying to establish. And the AI is bringing a huge wealth of knowledge and the ability to generate information based on that. And it's working together that I feel you get the best results. You have to realize that the LLM might seem to know a lot, but it doesn't understand the bigger picture. So I always start by saying, I'm building a country called Liberland. Here's the constitution, here's the laws. Now let's talk about a specific project. If you don't give the bigger picture and the context, you don't get such good answers. Have you seen the film Memento? An LLM is a little bit like, I forget his name, he's a little bit like the main character in Memento. They have a lot of knowledge, but they're like a newborn baby at the same time. You fall into thinking that they're really smart, but you have to give them lots of context and lots of information about what you're trying to do. This is something we've all done, and I think we don't do this anymore because we see this chat box, this text box, and then this continuously scrolling text, and you kind of get lost in there. But you still need to plan. If you want to build an app, you have to plan out what you want to do. Good news is that you don't necessarily need to do all the planning yourself. You can get the agent to do the planning for you. I think if you're going to take away anything from this is this next part here. So I constantly ask the LLM pros and cons. I don't just accept the answer. I get it to critically critique itself and go back and forth, and I reiterate on that continuously. I call this the Challenge-Reframe-Iterate. So you don't accept whatever the LLM says, you keep going round and round with that. So what would that look like in terms of maybe a prompt? This might be something you might ask, right? So should I expand my business into Europe? Seems like a decent question, right? What's wrong with that? What people don't always understand about an LLM and how they're made is that they are trying to please you in many ways. This is called LLM sycophancy. You've probably seen some social memes of them taking two chat GPTs and getting them to talk to each other. And they're both like, yeah, that's an amazing idea. Yeah, that's an amazing idea. That comes from the fact that LLMs are trained with people at the end. It's called human feedback loops. And the human will basically choose the best answer. You might have seen this with something like ChatGPT, ask you, which is the best answer? And you choose one. It's the same process. But humans don't necessarily pick facts. They don't pick what's right. They pick what they feel what feels most comfortable. They may not like a negative opinion. They may not like something that's vague. And the answer might be a shade of grey. It might not be black or white. So the LLMs are actually trained to be positive and to give you what humans want to hear. So you have to break that programming, if you like. It's not exactly programming, but you have to break that mold and push them and reframe them. It's called LLM cheerleading. Yeah, that's great. That's a great answer, Lee. That's brilliant. Let's do this. And before you know it, you've gone to open up a business in Europe and lost all your money. What's better is a negative framing. So why shouldn't we do this? Let's talk about all the things that can go wrong in this environment. And you may not need something as detailed and extensive as this. I don't write things as extensive and detailed as this, but I do constantly go into this adversarial mode. There's even some research that shows that LLMs perform better when you swear at them and you're rude to them, because it triggers them to stop just carrying along with you and go into this adversarial mode. And you can keep constraining that problem. So the LLM might come back and say, oh yeah, okay, you're right. We should consider these risks. Change the parameters. Well, we're not talking about the whole of Europe. We're talking about investment in Serbia, in Liberland. We're talking about just investing in this category. Now let's go around that loop and you iterate again. And then you get down to, well, okay, now we've got down into a really good area where we've really worked out a load of parameters, what are the next level down risks? What aren't we considering? I know I'll just ask really open questions. What am I missing here? Let's really get into this really deeply. And LLMs respond really well to this. They will start laying out all the risks. I love to do a lot of this just in what's called an incognito chat and then throw it away. Because once I've got sort of the core idea of what I want to work with, then I'll take that and I'll put it into a new chat and just sort of wipe its memory, like the guy in Memento. When I'm building an app, so I work in a software team, and we found that the LLMs will just run away writing code. And it does end up being slop. It's not manageable or maintainable by anybody. So we are now stepping back and making the LLMs, the agents, conform to a specification. So a spec, just a set of requirements. And we get the LLM to build them. So I'm working on a search feature at the moment. It's got 17 requirements. I've got the LLM to write all those down and then break them all down. So it's just like planning anything that you've always done. But the way we're currently interacting with LLMs, we kind of forget this. Forget that you've got to break down the work to build something that's going to be maintainable and to be built on. It's not just building apps. You can use this approach with anything. So if you was, for example, to want to write a book on spiritual teaching, you can use a different method. I asked, I think it was ChatGPT, what are the different frameworks for writing a spiritual teaching book? And it told me there's the spiral approach, where you start with the simpler concepts and you work your way into the dense concepts in the middle. Or there is the constellation approach, where each idea is an amazing star in its own right, but in some way they're connected together like a constellation. Or there's the progressive approach, where you take one idea and you build on it and build on it. I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool. I didn't know that stuff. Would I write the book? Not that I could, but could I write the book on Buddhism from that? No, but I would use it to structure my thought process. And this is, again, what I mean by this collaborative process. And it's amazing what frameworks they do know and ideas they do know. They pretty don't know much what every single philosopher has come up with. Like this gentleman, or this AI version of a gentleman. Just some really quick tips. I don't type anymore. All I do is speak to the LLM. LLMs actually like lots of text. They work really well when there's lots of text. I'm building my own speech-to-text app, and I do around something like 10,000 words a week at the moment, talking to LLMs. I know that sounds really quite sad, but people just want to type a few words and hope they get a good result. And there's this thing in social media about going caveman, just like the minimal number of words because you can't be bothered to type. No, don't do that. They work better when you say lots of things. I will just ramble for 20, 30 seconds at a time. And if that's not good enough, oh, did I lose it? Yeah, I'll come to that. Screenshots. Grabbing a screen, especially if you're doing some kind of user interface, do a screenshot. They're incredibly good at recognizing images now. I'll take a screenshot and throw it in there and say, hey, go look at this. There's something wrong with this. I was doing this with, I had another version of a presentation with this, and there were some graphics and they didn't look good and it didn't get it. So I just zoomed in and right on the little bit that was wrong and gave it that. And it's like, oh, I get it now. And it fixed it. So between speaking and screenshots, you don't, and I think you shouldn't be typing anymore. This has kind of gone away, but I might not be able to do a good prompt. So I'll just type whatever I can think of or say whatever I can think of, and then say, build me a prompt that's really detailed. And again, I'll do this in an incognito window, throw that away, and now I've got this really great prompt. And I do this a lot for images. Actually, this image was made with Google Gemini, and I said, I want a prompt of a LLM being asked to write a prompt. That was my prompt. It was rubbish, right? And then it generated an intermediary prompt, which was very detailed about, it's like a cyborg person with the cat story and this very detailed prompt improvement. And that was the prompt. So again, cycling around on using the LLM to help me write a good prompt. This is gets a little bit more technical, but there's this thing called the context, and you may have seen this thing, compacting conversation. Has anyone seen compacting conversation? You're like, compacting what, trash? Well, maybe it is trashy written, but it's summarization. That's what's happening. And once it summarizes it, it loses the information. And you're like, I know that. Look up there, I wrote that. Why don't you remember that piece of information? It's been summarized away. It's not there anymore. So this is also called lost in the middle. This is a phenomena of LLMs. They remember the stuff at the beginning and the stuff at the end, and they lose what's in the middle. So this is where you have to start introducing some plans and some things like different files to make it easier for the LLM to understand. I built this peptide app. It's just for me, just some way of me managing all these peptides I've been experimenting with. But it was thousands of lines of chat, and it kept forgetting like half of the things that I was talking about. So this is where I took Claude Cowork, and I said, break this whole chat down into a series of files and organize them for me. I didn't do it. I just said, go organize them for me. And what that means is if it wants to look up BPC 157, that's one small file. You can go grab that information, and it doesn't blow out my context window. And what that means for you is you save money, and also with something like Claude, you get to work for longer. And I had a friend who built his own website for his business using this, and he phoned me up and said, well, I make 2 pages to my website, and then that's it. I've run out of tokens. And that's because Claude was loading the whole web page every time. So we broke it up into small parts, and now it's fine. It's working really well. So directory structures. I just say break everything up into a really good structure so that you can access it easily in future. And they understand themselves and how they work. I can say, I don't want you to keep using up all the tokens and costing me a lot of money. Break it down into the appropriate chunks of information that you're going to retrieve when I ask you these questions. And it knows how to do that. They are super smart in that way. Very quickly, there's this thing called Markdown. You don't need to know it either. LLMs love it. It's just a text format. And it looks weird, like # header. # just means it's heading level 2. That's it. It's really simple, but LLMs love it. I say it to the LLM probably 10 times a day. Hey, whatever we're talking about, go write that down in a Markdown file for me and save it. And then I start building up these big sets of documentation that I can dip back into. And this becomes like the tattoos on the Memento guy's body, right? I can refer back to this information. And you're not starting from the beginning again. That's another example of Markdown. What I did here, I mentioned an open claw Larkin Rose. So I took the most dangerous superstition. I got an LLM to boil it down into a Markdown file, which is his soul. And this is how OpenClaw works. It has a soul. And this is Larkin's soul. It's actually really cool, I think. Agent for work too. And so this is the agent that wakes up every day and tries to pick apart the Liberland Constitution and laws. But it's just another example of Markdown. This is the whole presentation in itself. Skills are super useful. There's a whole community of skills out there. They let you do all sorts of things like high quality web design, document conversion. They're an open standard now. And I build probably a skill a week for me and my team, which is all sorts of document and domain information that we don't want to continuously have to generate. So I don't know if people have worked in IT and projects. There's things like Jira and Confluence, which are wikis. my Claude at work knows where Confluence is, it knows where Jira is, it can query them. I can say, hey, what, is Harry working on this requirement? It knows how to go and interact with all those systems and come back and work with me. So skills are super useful. I probably spend 20% of my week experimenting with things and trying to learn new things, and it's changing so fast, you have to do that. So, I have all of those LLMs on my laptop and I experiment with all of them in different ways. And I would encourage you to do the same. And some of them are really cheap. Claude, for example, was pretty expensive. GLM there I got for $144 for the whole year. And it's about as good as Claude. So, if you are someone who uses chat and you're not that technical, I don't work for Anthropic, but co-work is a brilliant next step for you. It lets you do all the things I've been talking about. It lets you organize your work into files and build projects. My friend there, he's not technical. He started with co-work, but then actually within 2 to 3 weeks, he was over into Claude Code, which is the command line and building apps. So he built his own business website, and now he's building the mobile phone using Claude Code. It's more accessible than you think. So I'll just ask, is there anything there that people are like, oh, that's an interesting thing I could use in my life, in my work? Yes, sir. Did you raise your hand? Oh, no, was there any one thing in there that you thought, oh, that's something? Yeah. So it's good at generation. And the way that I use it tends to be when I'm just not thinking in enough level of detail. So I use it really more to create more detail. I don't necessarily want it to be qualitatively like it. Yeah, it wouldn't necessarily be so good about in terms of the problems that I talked about, like LLM cheerleading and wanting to please you. But in terms of fleshing something out, yeah, it's good for that. But you can. Yeah, you may do, or you may go through the loop that I talked about. You might go through that challenging loop, that adversarial loop, and no, that's a terrible prompt. I'll just say that's a terrible prompt. Do it, try again, or give something very specific. But, yeah.
Finally, you ask me something, Lee.
Let's ask. Sorry. So we went. Is there a bit more volume? So where's Nadir? Can you turn up the volume, please? Let's ask Vipot, who's the AI president of Liberland. How did I get that wrong? Did I go into?
For me, the Challenge-Reframe-Iterate is a powerful tool I will use. Thanks for helping me understand why LLMs are so sycophantic. Shame you didn't show them VitBot. Maybe next time, eh?
Sorry, Vipot. Next time I'll do that. Okay, so technology is to be used for good or bad. We constantly being told by Klaus Schwab and his friends that we're going to be in the fourth industrial revolution in a technocracy hell. But it's up to the good people like us to take technology and use it for good. I truly believe that we can do amazing things with them. We don't have to listen to what they're saying. They always profit by these doomsday stories that they tell us. And my last offer is that I'm here for the next 2 days. If you have a project that you want to take to the next step and try and do something, then I'm here to help. So if you want to sit down and do a session with me for an hour or something and build a project, then just let me know. Thank you. As you can tell, I'm a geek, so I don't usually present. It's quite quite nerve-wracking, but I do appreciate it. Thank you.